e tauara, e tini e mano. Tuoro iara, tuoro.
Let's all stand up, sing our national anthem.
Your Honour, greetings to you all on behalf of the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University of Canterbury. I'd like to, I have much pleasure in welcoming you, Honourable Prime Minister, good lady, and entourage, as well as the Cook Islands community to the University of Canterbury this evening. When I heard that, that Pastor Joseph was looking for a venue to house you, accommodate you this evening, I jumped at the opportunity. Mainly for two reasons. One is that we don't normally engage with the Cook Island community here, and we would like to change that. We want to get more commitment and more engagement from you. And secondly, you are, I'm told, the second largest Cook Pacific Island community here in Canterbury. So we owe you this type of engagement. The Master of Ceremony kindly said that I own the building. I don't, although I would like to own it, but really seriously, I think this is our building, this is our campus, and I would like you to think of the University of Canterbury as our campus, Pacific Island campus. There are other good reasons why I was glad that Pastor Joseph had chosen the University of Canterbury. One of them is that Dr. Kiki Maate sits on our University of Canterbury Council. So Dr. Maate is our highest ranking Pacific Island member. So it's actually probably is his house, not mine. So, and so he's done a lot of good work for us at the top, strategically. So when I took on this position, I was actually very, very happy that someone of Kiki's stature was involved in the planning and the strategic thinking at the top, the hierarchy, the structure of this university. The other reason, another reason why we should be, that I'm happy that welcome you, is that we have 23 Cook Island students here at the University of Canterbury. Liz Canetti, my manager, does a wonderful job in pastoral care, looking after your kids. And so we try to provide a background and environment that's conducive to their learning. So, and I think Professor Matunga from Lincoln University. We're meeting tomorrow, incidentally, to talk about these kinds of collaborations. I'm glad to meet him tonight. So we're looking for ways to try and help your kids succeed at this university. Finally, Honourable Prime Minister, I had great pleasure in finding out that we share the same alma mater in the University of Auckland, which is probably not a good thing to say to Canterburyans, but I did my PhD there at the University of Auckland and had worked with Marjorie Crocombe and the late Professor Ron Crocombe at the Centre for Pacific Studies. So even though I have no real connection to it, I think because we share the same kinds of environment and culture at the University of Auckland, I think there's something that we have in common. But with that, I'd like to wish you all a happy evening of exchange and sharing. Me taki.
Kia ora ana tātou katoto I te ro mātou te tū. A very special, warm Cook Islands kia ora ana and greetings to our distinguished guests around the front. Doctor, thank you for giving us shelter for tonight and a place to meet. May God bless you in your work. Professor, I'm absolutely honored to be in the presence of a Cook Islands professor. Thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight. Dr. Kiki Maote, kia ora ana. I'm always proud to know of Cook Islanders who've done well. And of course, Dr. Maote is one of them. And we should all be proud of him. Special kia ora ana to our Orometua here, Papakemi. I had the privilege of being in church in Atutaki when you delivered your sermon one Sunday. I think it was in October, the Sunday before the assembly. Yeah. It was good to hear you preach. And tonight it's my turn to preach. Te te tātou kukaren katoto, kia ora ana, takake I te aro mātou te tū. It is always good to meet with our people, no matter where we are. And the last few days have been a real pleasure for me to meet with our people in Dunedin, and this afternoon to meet with our community in Ashburton, and tonight with you people here in Christchurch. I bring greetings from your government back home, Deputy Prime Minister and all ministers of Cabinet. If I can just run through their names, the current ministers, Deputy Prime Minister is the Honourable Tom Masters, representing the Murianua constituency in Rarotonga. There's Minister Teriki Heather, the action man, as he is known, the member for Akawa. And then there is Nandi Glassy, the member for Areora, professor from your area in Atiu, an academic like yourself, Minister Nandi Glassy. And then there is the Honourable Tena Bishop from Marutanga Reo Nikopara, who is the Minister of Tourism. And the youngest member of Cabinet, the Honourable Mark Brown, member for Takuwene, Tutakimo. And he is our Minister of Finance. And I believe that he is the best person to look after the finances of our country. I bring you greetings from everybody back home. An apology at this point in time. Te uanga tātou ki te ngaruru enua last February last year. I was in Wellington to see Prime Minister John Key. But I knew that the Prime Minister wanted to be here, to be with the people of Christchurch. And so I actually rang him before I had met him to say, look, Prime Minister, it's all right. I understand that you want to be and you need to be seen to be in Christchurch right now. And so we didn't meet, but he came down. And this morning I had the pleasure of meeting with your mayor, Mr. Bob Parker. I felt as if before we met that I knew him already because I'd seen him so much on television both during the earthquake and the recovery phase, and even on and off in the last couple of months. And I was really impressed with your mayor. He's so friendly, so approachable, and so down to earth that I felt very much at ease in his presence. And in that connection, people, I heard our Professor Matunga say that he is proud to be a Cook Islander. I'm even prouder to be leader of the Cook Islands right now. Because when the earthquake struck, the response back home was just tremendous, absolutely awesome. We had a fundraiser in Rarotonga, and on that day, everybody wore black and red. Everybody. I mean, I'm not a black and red fan. I have to admit, I'm a blues fan. Well, the only time I supported you when you played the Highlanders and you guys lost. That was terrible. Was it? Our people responded magnificently. We had radiothon and people running along the roads here in Rarotonga to collect money, donations. And in a few hours, we raised over $30,000. Over $30,000. But it was more the spirit in which the fundraising was done that really touched my heart. And that's why I said, look, I'm proud to be a Cook Islander and more proud to be leader of our small country. Island of Aitutaki in particular gave a stunning example of how generous our people are. In Aitutaki there's only 2,500 people. And yet in 4 hours of radiothon, fundraising, you know how much money they raised? 2,500 people? You guys didn't know. They raised over $25,000. Our tourism industry, together with government, got together and worked out a tangible way of showing our support for the people of Christchurch. And they came up with a package, an initiative which was called the Heroes and Heroines Program, where we asked the mayor of Christchurch to select 100 people to come to the Cook Islands as time permits, free, absolutely free, for 1 week's holiday. Government chipped in for some airfares, but the rest of the costs were funded by our tourism industry. Accommodation was free, and not just budget accommodation. I'm talking about some of the major resorts in Rarotonga. And then, having got to the Cook Islands, they were also provided with free travel to the outer islands by Air Rarotonga. So Aitutaki to Atiu to Mangaia. They had free meals. Everything was free to these people. We were in the mayor's office this morning, and some of those people were there. And they gave their testimony of how touched they were with the generosity of our people. So, tonight, standing in front of you, people from Christchurch, I am proud to be a Cook Islander. I'm really proud to be a Cook Islander, and so you should be. You do me the honor of being here tonight because, in many ways, I'm not your Prime Minister. John Key is your Prime Minister. And yet, because of the connection we have, we're all Cook Islanders. And so I count it a real honor and a privilege that I am received by you this evening. So thank you very much for that. Before I go any further, let me introduce the rest of our delegation. Sitting next to me over there, that beautiful lady is my boss, my wife, Akaiti. Believe me, she might look timid and meek over there. She really is the boss. Of course, you met the High Commissioner, Tiki Matapo. And this skinny fellow sitting next to him is Edwin Pittman. He is my CEO in my office back home. And I'm proud to say that he came back home to serve our people in the capacity that he is now in. Having formerly served for nearly 15 years as head of foreign affairs, and then he went to New Zealand to babysit his 2 teenage children, young people, while they went to school. And then when the call was made to him to come back and serve government and the country, he came back. So, Edwin, he wants me to call him George Clooney. But we have a character back home that resembles better what he looks like now, George Pitt. Yeah. You know, trust me that I am very, very honored to be here and also to meet with our other communities. Tomorrow we go to Invercargill, and I look forward to meeting with our people there. It's an odd way to travel to South Island because we were in Dunedin, and then we came north, traveled by car to Ashburton, and then back here tonight, and then we're going down south again tomorrow. But we have a very good reason for going down south. Oysters. Oysters and salmon. And I hope the arrangements have been made. Eddie? But you know, back home, even now, I make the cartoon in the daily paper, Cook Island News, just for coming to visit you people. Some people back home, particularly papas, think that it's a waste of money and a waste of time. They don't understand our culture, so let's forgive them. But there are people back home opposed to my being here to say hello to you. But for me, you are part of the family. You will always be part of the family, although you've chosen to make Christchurch your home. I know that the pull in your hearts to come back home someday will always be there. That's your choice. When I became Prime Minister, this might interest our young people, I thought it was time to make some fundamental changes in our political system at home. You see, I, like you university students, am a qualified lawyer. And I wanted to go home and serve government and serve my country as a lawyer. But I was victimized because my family is known throughout the Cook Islands as CIP supporters. And so I became a trade officer in the Ministry of Trade, Labour and Transport. Nothing to do with my legal training at all. And I started thinking, this can't be right. What kind of message are we trying to show to our young people, to give our young people who are not interested in politics, only interested in bettering themselves, getting educated, obtaining qualifications, and doing what they best can do. And so when I became Prime Minister, I made it a priority that I must change our political culture back home, our political system. And with the support of my cabinet colleagues and our team in government, we have now embarked on a radical paradigm shift in our political culture. No longer will you be judged by your political color if you're working for government or if you want to work for government. Instead, there's one standard for everybody: performance. Performance and merit. And that's how it should be. It's not part of our culture. Politics is never part of our culture until recently. And we've only been in politics, playing politics since 1965. And so I'm not ashamed to say to you that we are changing the political culture back home and respecting Cook Islanders for what they are and what they can do and achieve for our country. But I'm sad to say that even with this new shift, there are still some working for government who are still playing politics in their own ways and in their positions. That's sad, because I'm hoping that within a very short time, at least before the end of before the next elections, that our people will come to accept that this is the way to go. You know, te tumu mana koe te istangat, Christian tātou. Christian tātou. Api e tātou ki te aro, te ngati te, i tō tātou i te tai atu. I grew up in a very strong Christian home. Api a ngati o ngā mitua kia, aka ngati te, e aro i tō o tangata tupu, me a koe aro i a koe rai. So for me, that is that principle in action. Koe respect a ngā tātou i te tai ki te tai. After all, we are all Cook Islanders, all doing our best for our country. The other thing we are trying to achieve back home is to take our country down the road of a major shift in our energy policy. Every time there's a price rise with oil, the oil price rise, you feel it here, but we feel it even worse back home. I've been living in Manigi for nearly 15 years. And, any Manigans here tonight? Ah, Yoran. How da Manigi tātou born here? In Manigi, $3 a litre fuel. And you can imagine if you translate that into energy costs, the power cost, mama. So, I looked around. In Manigi, there's plenty of sunshine and plenty of wind too, particularly i Tauhunu. And so I asked myself, why cannot we harness what nature, what the good Lord is blessing us with freely? Why don't we use that for our energy? And so there is now a major shift in Tō Basire. We're now harnessing nature to provide us with electricity, with power. And we're starting with the outer islands. Anybody from Rakahanga? Yeah. We're starting with Rakahanga. Ai, e Rakahanga koe me mani. Yeah, we're starting with Rakahanga. The funding has already been approved from the Japanese government. Hare rato no wakamata to convert to the solar o Rakahanga. And then to Puka Nassau. In fact, Puka was the first island in the country to be converted to solar. Temerai or Sir Geoffrey Henry. And so this is nothing new to them. After Puka, then we moved to Manihiki. Taratoro mani ta kuisi tangata ai. Ko koe Prime Minister of Manihiki. Ko mātou te turu. Why can't we be first? E tau ke rato, ai, ko tātou te mitua te Basire. E muri o tātou. You might ask, Akape, how are we funding this? Trust me, there's heaps of money out there. The Japanese government will be funding Rakahanga, Papatumuni, Arepotumuni, Puka Nassau, and part of Manihiki. But already, the New Zealand government, your government, has promised to fund the rest of the conversion of Manihiki. As well, anybody from Mitiaro? Hare. And then we will be moving here Mitiaro. At the same time, we will also be converting here Penryn. But you can follow the drift. Ko te aim, ko te target ya te kaumani te tem, kia taui ia 50% of the country to renewable energy by 2015. It's only another 3 years away. And then 100% by the year 2020. You know, a lot of people, a lot of governments in the world have been laughing at us. How on earth are you going to do this? That we're a very small country. Small is beautiful. So we can easily manage that. And so they're trying to learn from us, which is good. I get invited all around the world to speak to governments and conferences about our policies and how we are achieving that. So maybe by the time me ka okime kutu tatu inu solo o tatu. Ara tatu onga diesel o. That is one thing. Te rua, to tatu waste management I rarotong. Rarotonga tika, because that's the hub of our tourism industry, Rarotonga. It's been neglected for too long. So that septic tanks, they're no longer any good. Because they're leaking there. So that repo naroto itone, erigiro the water table, by not giro the mon. In fact, tutu Maori atu yukutu, kore to tatu take papa maramama. Melgia kutu gratonga, ya ere pa idei muri. Yabanga poison yukutu. No, honestly. But we're hoping, wakamata tatu new waste management system in Muri. We're starting there because that is the economic basket of our country. That's our tourism hub in Muri. So hopefully we will be able to reverse the effects of neglect of the past too many years. So that's what we're doing. At the same time, I Rarotonga, totatu vai. Aremakon. Last year, from August to November, we had a drought in Rarotonga. Arewai. Arewite ko mati au mapu e rave arane I hautunga e tatu e manakatoto. But it drove the point home very clearly to us that we need to fix our water supply system. And Garero Atun, we will be signing an agreement with the Chinese government to provide some loan funding in the fund to new reticulation system in Rarotonga. The water intakes, all the intakes are in the valleys. And it's a simple exercise to dam the valleys so that we get more water in the intakes. But that is what we're doing. Ako e mana tae te akapirini ni tātou ki te chinito. O chinito te pasiri a muni roa te uru te tini o te tuato. Mo te a. But, o te katoa ango te muni ka pōna te project o te vai, ai mai pa mi te angoru 2 milioni tāna. But the agorat, that is money well spent. It's a very sound investment. No tātou pasiri, no Rarotonga. Tātou isi tangata te tuato, e te tuato tātou ka eriki mua. Tō tātou matara, tarotoro mera te mama I dani no po, era ke I te ora te. Me I paku umirunga te pātikara te potholes o. Roading is a very, very expensive exercise, fixing our roads. But we're starting to do that now. Me koi te airport, era ki te town, te akamane tō tātou inu e rira. And then akarere te toa matara I Rarotonga. Are ko mātou mani ki nā ora matara ana, tō mātou transport ire re pochi. Aro o mātou te pochi ki te tua, te tua. Koto rai Rarotonga, nā ora te matara me te no koto. I think everybody accepts here that tourism is the backbone of our economy in the Cook Islands. That is certainly true. At the moment, for those economic students, tourism provides 80% of our GDP. And so that's a heavy reliance. But it means that now we have to do everything we can to encourage tourism and to grow tourism in our country. Last year, we made a conscious decision to invest in underwriting 2 services to the Cook Islands. One from Los Angeles, because Air New Zealand was looking at terminating that service, and a new service, Sydney to Auckland, Rarotonga direct, once a week. And we were told that it would cost us about $8 million to underwrite the 2 services. At the time, it was, we knew that it was money well spent. It's a sound investment, and it has proven to be. Last year, we grew our tourist numbers to the Cook Islands to 116,000. All our friends in the Pacific are wondering why on earth, how on earth we can do that. But we spend our money where we need to spend it. However, unfortunately, oil prices have gone up, and it's meant an increase in our underwrite costs to New Zealand from $8 million to $12.5 million. And so that's affected our budget. But we will find a way through. We will find a way through. What we really want to achieve with tourism now is not to grow the numbers so much as to spread the benefits, especially to the outer islands. Especially to the outer islands. I'm pleased that efforts are now underway, vigorous efforts to do that. Government is playing its part. We've changed our immigration rules. Retired New Zealanders now can come to the Cook Islands and stay for 12 months. No questions asked. Subject to normal immigration checks, police records and stuff like that. So we don't have another Mark Lyons back in Rarotonga. But 12 months, which means it's open. New Zealand citizens can retire to the Cook Islands if they wish. And if they want to stay on for another 12 months, they can do that. No hassles. For New Zealand citizens, and you're all New Zealand citizens now, you can come home for holiday and stay there forever if you want. But for our New Zealand friends, they can actually come to the Cook Islands and stay for 3 months instead of before it used to be 30 days. Now it's 3 months. And if they want to extend, they can extend with no questions asked. So that is a good news for our New Zealand friends. I know there's a lot of New Zealand Cook Islanders who were born here, who've never been back home, and who've probably got Papa'a names or Samoan names or Tongan names. I was asked a question in Dunedin last night. Why is it that my little son, who is a Cook Islander, went home for a holiday, but was refused entry? Well, had difficulties getting in. The fact is, you help us to help you, because there are a lot of our children are born here. And, we can't tell just from your immigration arrival forms that you are a Cook Islander. Maybe we need to draw up a new form so that you can answer that. But a birth certificate would help a lot. But in any event, now you've got 3 months without any questions. Come up. If you want to come for a holiday, bring your children up, and you've got 3 months to go to the registry and get a birth certificate, or at least prove that our children are Cook Islanders, so that they won't have any problems with immigration. I just want to close with a sad note. We have our issues back home too. And one of the issues that's really taxing our attention now is youth suicide. Youth suicide. Any one youth that commits suicide is a great loss. And when you have 3 or 4 in a matter of months, it is a national crisis. And a couple of months ago, in fact, a month ago, there were suicides on successive weekends. Young people. No reasons given, no signs of any problems at home, and parents woke up to find their young ones dead, hung themselves. And so I thought, look, what can we do to help our young ones? What became clear to me, Papa'a was that instead of falling back on the Bible and saying, look, these are the answers in the Bible, I didn't think that was the way to go. I didn't think browbeating our young people would do them any good. So we thought that it's best to bring our young people from Rarotonga, from the outer islands, together, organized by young people, managed by young people, to talk about this problem. You see, as a people, we sometimes push these issues under the carpet, under the bed. We don't want to talk about it. We pretend that it's not happening. But for me, we can't pretend anymore. We need to tackle it head on. And the first step we thought was to bring our young people together, to talk about it, and come up with the reasons why they're doing it. Then we might get an inkling of what the answers should be. What I want to ask you tonight is, I know that in New Zealand it's even more serious problem. Because when I rang Wellington to ask for potential possible help, I was told that the Prime Minister had just set up a task force to look at this very issue among New Zealand youth. But my request is that if there's anyone here tonight who's had experience with that sort of work here in New Zealand, your services, your help is very much needed back home now. We're looking at hooking into the helpline, the youth line service that is available here in New Zealand. But I think we need to do more than that. We need to do more than that. We need to somehow reach our young people. And we also need to acknowledge that our young people of today are subjected to so much pressure. You know, the world is now very small today. They have Facebook, they have internet. Yes, we have internet in Rarotonga, in the Cook Islands. And so our kids are chatting on Facebook, they're tweeting, and they know what is happening in the rest of the world. And I suspect there is a degree of copycatting. That's why some young people are doing it. But I'm pleased to say that we are starting to address this problem. I hope you're not experiencing that among our community here in Christchurch. But if you are concerned that it's happening back home, I just want to reassure you that we are doing something about it. And I hope that when I go home, the summit was held yesterday in Rarotonga, that the report will be there waiting for me, hopefully with all the answers as to what government and us as a country, as a whole community, can do for our young people. Listen, I know that I've spoken long enough. Gee, I wish I could speak all night. There's so much to tell about what's happening at home. But your country is doing well. Be assured of that. Your country is doing very well. We're proud that we will be hosting the Pacific Leaders Forum in August of this year. If you want to come and sample a bit of real Cook Islands culture, come at the end of July, early August, the Tatu Constitution celebrations. Oh, I need to ask you. No, the request that is coming from your government back home is that if you would like an official from your government back home to be present for your Constitution Day celebrations, we will be very, very happy to do that. In fact, the Deputy Prime Minister suggested to me before I left to tell you that if it's your wish, then one minister will be here to celebrate Constitution Day with you. Thank you for the very warm welcome. That home will always be there waiting for you whenever you want to come home. On that note, God bless us all, and thank you for listening. Kia ora.